There we go. Oh my gosh. For some reason, the stream was like messing up, not correctly doing the right thing. But yeah, now we're good. We're a couple minutes into open. It's been a very slow open. Um, and we had a lot of chop overnight. So one of my trades is to look for overnight moves. Let's see. From 74, 10 points, 12, 13, 14, 15. It was over 15 points of movement up, but it was kind of like up and then sideways and then kind of down. So it's not a consistent trend up. So we won't trade this as a trade. It's too varied. Um, the volatility is nice, but so we're not looking for any trade like that. And I call that one the Phantom Train. My trades are named after Final Fantasy themes now because I'm a fanboy. And okay, we're getting a move down. Good stuff, good stuff. Alrighty. Actually, this looks like it could be potentially. Oh, all right. So no Phantom Train. Um, the next we're looking for either a pump which would set us up for a move in the opposite direction, or looking for this bar to close, which would give us a potential hyper jump setup. Oh shoot, okay. We saw it. It's definitely pushing back through. Okay, so it's cutting through this range here, closing the distance here. Cool, okay. We still haven't gotten a close on this bar, and it's not as much of a pump to really. Yeah, we'll see how the rest of this minute goes. Yeah, if it keeps blasting down, then sure. Okay, we're getting more downward movement. Cool. Definitely clearing this. This is a significant move down already. And we haven't even closed the bar yet. So I'm not looking at a gun blade. A gun blade would be one of those moves where it closes in the opposite direction with a short move. So I'm going to see if this thing can give me a little bit of. Yeah, that would have been the move right there. So it looks like you got to be quick. This is my first time attempting to capture a pump. So it looks like it's better to just do a market order. And you want to focus on pump down. Yeah, and I thought about getting in on this bar, but I didn't want to chase it. We'll see how it all unfolds. It wasn't like a crazy strong pump, but it definitely was a bit of one. So I don't know how much energy that was for this to take off upside. Yeah, entrance would have been around 83. It seems like with all these RSI trades, it'll probably be best to just market order. Yep, here it comes down. Let's see what it does. Looks like a pretty low activity open so far. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even though it cleared here, it just felt very like, kind of moving down, but not really. So it felt more like a swing. Yeah, so getting in on this probably would have been a bad idea. Just take profit when this hits oversold over here. Or overbought, my bad. hmm Or you give it an ultimatum by just moving your stop up here behind this swing. Because if it's not showing the signs of a big move, then you want to just look for profit, or you want to just tighten in your stop. But if it's showing the signs of a big move, you want to give it space and room. And as soon as it stops showing those signs, you want to tighten things up. It's kind of like the difference between a stream and a river. Like a stream is very narrow because there's not a lot of flow. So you tighten it up and then you make space for everything else, trees and bushes and animals and whatnot. As soon as you have more flow, you have a river, you have a wider, it's wider, and so it takes up a lot more space because there's more flow. Same concept with trading. As the market is flowing, right? If it's flowing weak, you want to tighten the stream, you want to tighten the width, right? You want to keep your top stops in, you want to look for exits, things like that. But if it's going hard and big, you want to keep everything loose and let it do its thing. You want to hold back on targets, you want to let it just keep going and keep your stops loosely trailing behind swing points. Yeah, so we'll see how this rocks out. This could end up just being pretty sideways for a bit until it breaks out. If it breaks out, it's always an if. Everything is a probability. Yeah, once you start thinking of the market in terms of probabilities, you stop trying to guess what it's going to do and you just think, oh, it could do this, it could do that, it could do that. It's like, okay, my thinking is that's lower probability. It's been swinging back and forth. It could keep doing this indefinitely, or it could do this for a bit and then eventually break to the upside or downside, and maybe we'll get some more action. Or maybe it'll just be a very slow, churny day, up or down. So it looks like it's testing the downside. Still no bar change. At this point, if we do get a bar change, which we should get it soon, or not. Or maybe we won't get a bar change. It's already longer than this one. Yeah, so I mean, you can have the best trading, I feel, when you're doing it by hand as a human, is you can combine your intuition with a logical system. Now, all the main mechanics of the system, the logic should be able to be self-sustainable. In other words, every time if I kept taking every single pump trade like this, then over time it should be profitable, right? If I apply intuition though, which is gained from staring at the screen over and over and over and over and over and over, and you stare at the screen long enough and you look at a million charts, 10 million charts or whatever, then you will start to remember all the different things that happen and how pacing feels like, how swings look like, structures. You'll start to just remember all the different nuances of the market and how it behaves at certain times and what it's done in the past. For example, here it was coming down, oversold, and it was going to swing up. But because, we can think back to all the times we've seen, okay, there's been times where we've seen it shoot really hard down and make stronger move like that. It was faster and longer. So we could gauge this as being, oh, this was weaker, right? But that comes from just lots of screen time. And that's what intuition is where you've seen something over and over and you've seen so many iterations that you can start to gauge, just naturally gauge how you can rank this one, right? That just comes with screen time experience. And so you see this is weak. So when it does move, I think that's why I was a little bit hesitant with this one. I was like I wasn't super like, oh my God, I gotta get on this. Right? I was like, well, I'll put a limit order on, and then it took off. And I'm like, oh, there it goes. And um yeah, but if it was like if it had pushed harder down, I probably been like, oh my God, I want to get in on this, right? And I would have probably been more aggressive. But gauging, using intuition to gauge here the the strength or weakness of this, right? Now you can gauge like, well, if it's that weak going down, there's not a lot of not a lot of intensity in the morning right now. It was very weak in the first few minutes. Then we could say that the odds are more in favor of this swinging up and matching it, right? And then just kind of getting into this slow rotational behavior. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like when this breaks, I was thinking this is going to be like, if this goes sideways, it'll go sideways. But likely it probably does. It doesn't usually like to stay sideways for too long. It likes to kind of mosey somewhere, even if it's just like a kind of a undulating grind and down or up. And we started to see like it matched the bars here, and then it came down a bit, and then it pulled back, so it started to kind of grind down, but it was consistent. This is a consistent grind down. This is much more consistent than these two. These are kind of like quick and short lived, and this has a bit more consistency over time. There's more down bars, right? Count them up. And so that when that consistency is there, that shows there's more um, involvement in the downside. So it's possible we could. That's why I was thinking, okay, this could break down more, but it's slow today, so it might be an undulating grind. You might get this pullback here, and then it comes down, and it pulls back, unless something comes in and shakes things up. We could get some sudden burst of activity that starts things in a new direction or gets it flowing more. You just never know what the next thing will be until it happens. And then you can start to map predictions and things like that based on the new information. Right? There was one day a couple weeks ago where it was kind of erratically moving back and forth for a while, for like a few hours. Oh, there's a different cat outside. Interesting. That's not my cat. That's someone else's cat. Hi, kitty. Oh, you didn't see me. Audrey's not here to protect me. Oh my gosh. It's wild seeing all these random cats everywhere. They just like roam through our yard and like chase each other and get in fights and stuff. Cats are like crazy. They're like gangsters. Like roam into people's territory and start fights and then get kicked out and like little gang fights. Except they're like solo. Oh yeah, it is. Meow meow. Looking. Oh, he looks like a sweetie. Still doesn't see me. He's like looking in. Surprised Aja hasn't come through yet. Aja's just like really protective and aggressive. Like if she sees any other cat, she'll just like bum rush that cat and just start like Bruce Lee status, like hyper swiping at them and just like flying sidekick them and just like knock them on their ass. And they just get so surprised because she's really tiny. She's probably like half the size of your average cat. Um, Even if you take an average cat that's average weight, everything, she's literally like half the size. She's a tiny little. She's like the runt of the litter. She was found outside an arcade, and then we took her in, and yeah, she's so to make up for her size, she just is really fast. Like she's really fast. Like if you try to grab her, she'll just like run away, and she'll just sprint away. She's like really good at running, which is great because I feel more secure knowing that people won't like just grab her and take her because I can't even fucking grab her and pick her up. Like she's so freaking fast. And if immediately as soon as you try to grab her, she just bolts. And so she's really good at that, which is awesome. And also frustrating at times for me. But so there's that, but then she's also like just super aggressive and it's like she's always the one to get the first strike, right? She's the one, as soon as she sees a cat, she'll just immediately charge them really fast and immediately start attacking them right away. Which is like, they get so surprised. They're like, whoa, what's going on? And they go into this kind of like mild state of shock. And they like retreat and run away a lot of times, or they're just kind of like paralyzed. But eventually she does it so much. That's kind of her only move, though. She doesn't really have any other moves. So as soon as any of the cats wisens up and holds their ground and swipes, even just one swipe back, she suddenly becomes a scaredy cat and just like she just like runs away and she becomes very like oh shit, because like she realizes how small she is, and as soon as they have enough confidence to swipe back, she can't measure up to their size. So she then uses her agility to run away, so she can run away again. So she's always trying to only strike when she has the advantage, and when she no longer has the advantage, she backs out. Which is kind of like how trading is, right? I'm like, I don't know how I was talking about kitties and meow meows, and now that circled it back to trading. Okay, that's cool. But right, it's like if you don't have the advantage, you want to back off. You don't want to be trading, right? But as soon as you have the advantage, you want to go in and strike as long as you have that advantage. As soon as you don't have that advantage anymore, you want to peace out, right? Think about it. Here, the advantage came in. It wasn't a strong advantage, so we let it go. But as soon as that advantage started to wane, like here, if breaking lower, or up here, kind of overbought, we want to peace out, right? So we want to strike when we have the advantage, and then it peace out. And if the advantage stays for the whole day, you get to ride the whole day, right? But yeah, no, that's a very good analogy, because I've always thought of there's an element to trading that does feel like how like cats hunt, where they stalk their prey, and when they have the most advantage, when like the prey is like turned away and they have a good hiding spot and they haven't been seen yet, and they're close enough to close the gap quickly, then they go and strike. And as soon as they don't have the advantage, it's just like they're in and then they're out, right? And a lot of times that's a core element to trading. And I think I could create like archetype. I gotta write this down. But there's like archetypes. There's animal archetypes to this. There's definitely like the cat. There's also the bear, which is sort of like you have to be able to, like a bear is steady and slow, or either the bear or maybe like the bull or something. No, you don't want to be like a bull. You want to be more like a bear. And you want to be able to just steadily sit through each day. And if it gives, it gives. And even if it gives, you got to be able to hold through it. And if it doesn't, or if you lose, you got to continue to have that bear energy that just it's steady, moving, consistent, this growth over time through a mixture of adversity or growth. Yeah, we're getting a lot of sideways action today. It's pretty slow. Not too exciting. We had a lot of exciting days. Like this earlier this week, last 2 days, last week before that, a lot of awesome epic stuff. So far, kind of slow and churny. We're getting the next push down. See if it even tests it. So most of the, let's see, I would say most of the, let's see. I'm gonna go back to yesterday. Yeah, this was like 849 here. Or was this the, yeah, I think it was this. Oh, so this was like 9:30. Should write that down. Trade tracking. Sorry, hyper jump. 9:30. See, so there was a hyper jump at 9:30ish. There's an add-in around 10, 10:10. Uh, 10:09. So far we've had a mini pump sideways day, slowly moving down. Do P train. I wonder if check material. Interior collective. Mm, How are we doing? It's working its way down. We still haven't gotten a bar change. So even if this thing changes, then we'd be looking for a big pullback, which would be our jump, our hyper jump. Pop back over by this and then sell it off. You're always using the energy of the market to propel you forward. And there's two ways that happens. Either, that I'm focused on. Either it starts a consistent movement in some direction, and then we have to look for a pullback to give us potential energy to move more down. Or the other version of that is when we get a strong push early on, and then we use that energy to propel us in the other direction. Those are sort of like using opposite energy. It's like magnets. It's like using the opposite energy to repel off, or like a rubber band. Like you pull the rubber band and then you use the energy of the potential energy and the tension of the rubber to, when you release the force that's holding it down, it shoots the other direction, right? When you release the sellers, the buyers all just boom, shoot up, right? So the sellers are getting out of their positions, which creates buying, right? That's all. Usually they exit with market buys. So then all those market buys help propel this market up, with people down here buying, right? So you see all the activity here. It's like buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. And then the sellers pull off, right, their orders, and then boom, it shoots up. So there's that element, the rubber band. But then there's also the snowball effect, right? So like if you roll, if it's the right kind of, I think it would have to be like, not, definitely couldn't be an icy or too powdery. It'd have to be like loose snow, but kind of a little bit hard enough for it to roll on. Loose enough to pick up snow. I don't know, I'm just thinking about. So yeah, you start rolling a ball down and it starts picking up more snow and gets bigger and bigger, and it has a consistent downward slope. Then it just grows and grows and grows. And so that's what happens in like the London overnight. If you have, like we had here, from midnight, this thing just went down, 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 and it picked up more steam, right? And it's just continuing down, continuing down. And so by the time we get to the open, we've got a pretty good sized snowball, and we just keep riding that down, boom, 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 boom. And then around here it kind of bottoms out. We either tighten up our stops or take profit. Those are the two things you can do with that. Because what happens is, with the overnight, is you've already got a big size move here. So there's two things that can happen. One, it could just keep going, totally possible. And then you get a nice trend day, and that would be a beautiful profit. Or two, the other thing that happens is it comes down and then it just kind of collects, right? And it starts going sideways because it's like kind of exhausted at that point. And that's a common thing to happen too. So yeah, it came down a bit more, and then it just exhausted itself and was in sideways behavior for most of the day. Here it came up overnight, went sideways, and started to come down. So we didn't, even though it had a good range overnight, we're not looking for it to. It want a more consistent trend. We want a snowball. We want a train. I think of it like a train. Trains go just straight, right? So you want to jump on the train. And so yeah, when you see it consistent like that, you have a pretty good snowball. Then you're just using the already built momentum of the overnight movements. You carry it through into the open, which works because the open, it responds and reacts to what was happening in the overnight, and there's a lot of potential energy in the open for some moves. So you use that potential energy of the open itself to carry the energy of the overnight onwards. So that's how that works. You're always using potential energy. And right now, yeah, in these first two trades, you're using the potential energy built from a swing, right? But then if there's a lot of built momentum overnight leading into the open, then you use the potential energy of the open, the new participants at the open, to carry on that move forward, right? So you always got to use potential energy to aid you in some way. Wow, the leaves are falling. So pretty. So, you got that potential energy. And then the fourth move, let's see. So the other thing that can happen is if, independent of the overnight, if early on there's a bar change, like let's say it moves down here and there's a bar change, and then it pulls back, we get a downward push and then a pullback, then we'll immediately try to jump on that um, because that was a shift in sentiment, because this represents a shift in sentiment, but a lot of times it takes a big push for this thing to close, right? But if early on, right near the open, there's an immediate shift in sentiment, right? And there's a pullback, right? So we're not getting a pump early on, but we're getting a total shift in sentiment. So we want to jump in on that sentiment while in the early on, while there's all this potential energy built up from the open. So it's also using the open's potential energy, but it's using it to get in on early on a shift in sentiment that could lead to a big move down in that new direction. So you're getting in, it's like getting that early access, right? So there's when it's moved a little bit and created a big poignant shift in the sentiment from a little move. That means you have a lot of potential energy on your side because it hasn't expended much to do that, and it's pulling back to give you more potential energy, and it's near the open. So you have this like triple energy stack, right? Not a lot of move down, but still create a big effect in the chart, in the big chart, right? And then we have a pullback, which gives us more potential energy, and and it's early in the day. It's like within like the first 5 minutes or something, 5-10 minutes, you get something like that show up, and then so it'd be kind of like if this had turned, you would see this come down and it would turn and you get the pullback, and then you're going to look for an entry, probably something like here. And then you'd write that down and just trail this. But, I mean, this hasn't even closed though. So it would have to, we didn't get any sentiment to the downside. We still have upward, ultimately, we're still in an upward sentiment. We just have a massive retracement right here. But it is working its way down, and eventually, if it keeps going down, it will close. It's just, we just don't know when that's going to be, or if. Where's all this little, crude oil's inventories? Crude oil inventories is right now. That's cool. What else we got? What's the other news? Oh, there's Aja. Oh, she wants it. Yeah.